we, those that struggle, need to find the courage to open up more and be vulnerable enough to
Mm-hmm.
ask for help and know that some people don't have the tools to help the way that we need to help.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Dr. Denisha Keating Show. I am so excited to have my friend Sam, who I have been stalking, following online for a very long time because he has shared so much online about mental health. Now, remember, you guys, this is the kitchen table conversation where two friends are coming together. We're going to be talking about a particular topic, and we are not allowed to yell at each other or speak over each other. We are only allowed to ask questions so that we can understand where the other person is coming from. And we are going to invite you as that fly on the wall to see how we would manage and handle these conversations in real time. So things are often not edited unless, it needs to be, but often they're not. I just post them because I feel that this is how we actually help each other have those table talk conversations. So Sam, you're on the mental health side. I would love for you to introduce yourself, what you do, and then we'll just kind of dig into some of the things we were talking about before we hit record.
Absolutely. So my name is Sam Eaton. I founded Recklessly Alive. We primarily are a suicide prevention organization sprinting toward a world with zero deaths by suicide. That is our main mission. That's why I do what I do. I was a teacher for 12 years. While I was an elementary school music teacher, we had 4 deaths by suicide in 1 year in my school district back in 2016. And this was a story that I had, a journey, my own lived experience, but I had never told anyone. I had never shared. But through losing so many people, I just knew I had to do something to help. And so that's how it all started. It's been slow. I mean, it's 9 years later. I've taken lots of breaks. I've burned out several times, but I'm just so passionate about helping people describe what it feels like to be in their brain, to know they're not alone in whatever their brain is feeling, or maybe even if their brain is feeling sick or struggling, and to just help show people the other side of it. I still have tough days myself, but my life has gotten so much better than I ever imagined. And I always needed someone in those moments to say, hey, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, this can look totally different. It's just day by day.
Yeah. I think one of the hardest things that I've recognized with mental health is that I have beaten myself up often when I have a bad day. And what you said is like, you will have bad days. But how do you get yourself out of a bad day? Like, because I think for me, I'm like, let me do all the things. And I actually, traveled this weekend. And so my body is really feeling it the last 2 days. And at first, I was beating myself up. And I had to remind myself, like, that actually doesn't help. So, what would you do in that situation if you were having a bad day? How do you get yourself out of that little spiral?
It's so tough. I think I'm built like you, where a lot of my self-worth comes from productivity.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, that's not a healthy thing. But
No.
if I can't be productive, then I feel worthless. And so when
Mm.
I'm in a cycle where I push, push, push until my body is like, you have to rest, and forces me to rest. And then I'm like,
Yeah.
it's like I struggle a lot with what is enough? When am I enough? When is
Mm.
what I'm producing enough? And my trauma
Mm.
response was, I'm going to work, I'm going to shine, I'm going to win awards. Then no one has to look at me. It's like that'll fix
Yeah.
everything. And the trick is that that doesn't fix everything, right? And actually,
Right.
most of our life is lived in the messy middle where
Mm.
you're just trying to make it happen. And I
Yeah.
always thought, oh, it'll be better if I do this. It'll be better if I do that. And the biggest thing is just to stay curious about our mental health without judgment.
Mm.
That's if I could go back
Yes.
and give myself that gift and start asking compassionate, trauma informed questions like, what happened to you instead of what's wrong with you? I was stuck for so
Mm.
long in the I am broken, my brain is broken. Why do I react this
Mm.
way? Why do I need to sleep for 3 days? And it's like, well, actually, Sam, that's what was modeled for you, is that when things
Yeah.
got hard for some of your caregivers, they disappeared or they slept, or like these are the things that were modeled for you. So instead of going immediately to you're the problem, let's take a step back. Let's take a deep breath and say, Sam, what happened that maybe this is the way that you want to respond, or what happened to
Yeah.
you that your brain is searching for a way out instead of just
Yeah.
a way through. So that is number one. The day-to-day stuff is exercise. Unfortunately, like it's all pretty cliche, the things that I actually do. But it's
But
like
it works.
we all need a toolbox, and it's like figuring
Mm.
out what works for us. Like journaling doesn't really work for me. I wish it did, but it isn't. It's not. I'm more active. I like to write, but just not every day focusing on it's not for me at this season.
Yeah.
So instead of trying to
Mm.
make my mental health journey look like everybody else's, instead it's just staying curious. It's like, actually, you know what? Running helps me a lot. Moving my body.
Mm. Mm.
Let's make that the daily habit. Let's make that the
Yeah.
prescription.
It's
Um,
so funny because I literally had that conversation with my husband yesterday where I was like, rest is really hard for me when it comes to sleeping because of the fact that my mom used to just sleep all day. And that was like, that's how she retreated. Like, she just literally would sleep all day and be up all night. And so I was like, for me, when I do that, like, I feel like I'm doing what she did. And he's like, you're not. And so what I recognize is I had to talk out some of that anxiety that I was feeling with him. And like, I love journaling, but the problem is like I started to recognize my journaling was like almost like narrative to like, look how strong I am. Like, if someone were to read this, like, they'd see like I'm still strong. And so I just had to be like, I told him last night, like, I have to be really honest that I'm feeling all of this stuff. And I had gone 3 days without walking. And he had said, like, he goes, I want to make sure I say this nicely because I'm not trying to say anything. He goes, but did you walk at all? And I said, no, I didn't. And he's like, maybe your body is pent up and it doesn't know what to do because the way that the last couple months has gotten rid of that energy is through walking. So do you want to try your treadmill real quick for, 30, 45 minutes? And I was like, okay, I'll try. And the first 5 minutes, my body was fighting it so hard. And I was just like,
mhm.
this isn't going to work. This isn't working. I'm like feeling anxious and I'm feeling this and this and this. And like, and I was like, I think I need to push through. I think I need to like give it 15 minutes and see if it's still 15 minutes in and I'm still feeling like everything is so tight. Like, maybe I need to get off and just lay down on the floor and maybe try physical laying down. And after that 5 minutes had hit, I started to feel like my body's like, oh, here it is. Okay. So I don't care that it's cliche. I think it's good that we're bringing it back to the basics because it is true. We do see research on that side where it's like physical activity is good, but it is not good to just sit in it. And I think that's what we tend to do is we isolate, we hold, and we be quiet on it because we're like, we don't want anyone to know because it's so shameful. So
Mhm.
how do you find someone that you can trust to share stuff with?
It has been a long journey. I always think about there's two sides of it. It's one, we those that struggle need to
Mm-hmm.
find the courage to open up more and be vulnerable enough to
Mm-hmm.
ask for help and know that some people don't have the tools to help the way that we need to help, but there's
Yeah.
a teaching there. There's a teaching and a correcting and a, hey, actually, when you said that wasn't helpful, but maybe we could try this instead. And the hardest part is when you're in those low moments, it's hard enough just to do anything, let alone then try to teach people how to love you.
Yeah.
So I think the most important thing is that we open up and we also teach people how to be a better person to open up to. We teach
Mm.
them how to ask kinder questions. We let them into what are those things that help us. It's a vulnerable thing
Yeah.
because sometimes people use that against us. Your husband could have said, "You haven't walked in 3 days, right? Like, of course you're this way, right?" And like that
Yeah.
is really shameful. Um,
But it was such a gentle way, which I think can be hard for people to do gently, and that's what I
it's,
feel is more
that's
difficult to be vulnerable with people who are kind of because I bully myself. I don't know about
me,
you.
me too.
I
Yeah.
I'm just like, Danisha, stop doing that, and I'm like,
Yes.
no, like I need to be kind to myself. And I love that you're like, yeah, he could have said it this way, but he didn't. He was very like, hey, I don't mean to make this sound
When
anything.
my brain is in a really dark place, it goes to the absolutes of I will never have that person. I will never find that person. Like that's been a big part of my depression journey. And so it's those of us that struggle also need to push back against those voices. Just because one
Yeah,
person has hurt us does not mean we're never going to find anyone and that we just need
yeah.
to isolate and shut ourselves off. I've tried that. That's not the answer either. So it is trial and error. It is being vulnerable.
Mm,
It's
mm,
accepting that everybody's human and everybody has the tools. And
yeah.
having traveled all over the country, I've done 200 speaking events on mental health. I
Mm.
honestly believe most people would help us if they knew how. I think a lot of, especially
Mm. Mm.
generations that are older than us that didn't grow up around a
Gosh.
lot of this mental health talk, they don't
Yeah.
they don't know what they don't know. And a
Mm.
lot of them were taught pick yourself up by your bootstraps. I know that's a phrase you use, but like that is
In a
like
different way.
yes,
It's
absolutely,
very
right? But
different.
like that was what their generation was taught. It's like after some of
Yeah.
these huge major wars, these men who had PTSD were told like get over it, right? Like
Yeah.
they'd
Yeah.
seen these horrific things, so they were taught man up. So that's what they've tried to instill, and they haven't been shown that there is a kinder, gentler way to help with all
Yeah.
this. So I think it's complicated, but it is
Mm.
certainly not impossible. And I really do think most people would help if they knew how. And so there's people like
Yeah.
you and me out there who are having these conversations to try to help them and those of
Yeah.
us that struggle, right? It's all just the more we talk about it, the more that we're open, we
Yeah.
better questions to ask, we share what does help us. I think the better it gets, but you got to accept first and foremost it's a journey, and it's not going to
Mm.
happen right away, probably.
So with and I feel like women are really good at this. It's like I can be a woman and cry. I can be a woman and feel. I can be a woman and enter into a space and people are like, yeah, that's just, most women are very comfortable saying I have anxiety or I have depression or I've experienced this and like I'm hurting today. But on the men's side, how is that different? And what have you experienced in those conversations comparing men to women? What are those differences when you have those conversations?
It is so tough. The message that men hear a lot is you just need to open up more.
Mm.
And then a lot of men are shamed when they actually do open up, when they show emotion. One of the things my friend group for a long time would say things like, oh, I'm going to take away your man card for saying that, or there's this like level of joke and shame that
Yeah.
that I have experienced and seen pretty firsthand. I mean, you see that even in like if a man likes a female musician, it's seen as too feminine or too right. Like if I were to
Yeah.
say I love Taylor Swift, there is a large portion of our population that's going to push back on that because it doesn't match that. And so
Mm.
there's this really tricky line of I feel like I need to be strong and appear that I am strong, and to ask
Mm.
for help at all is scary. But then so many times, especially as we're growing up, teenagers, again, the message is there's a lot of shame around that.
Yeah.
And a lot of men do it to each other. So I have seen the problem isn't that men aren't willing to open up. It's that the times that they have, it's been a really negative interaction. And again, that kind of
Yeah.
goes back to choosing the right people to open up to. When
Yeah.
I was a teenager in early 20s, like my mom was not the right person to open up to. I love my mom. We have a great relationship now.
Yeah.
Um, I needed to tell someone about what was going on, and she didn't have the tools to do that. So we as men,
Mm.
we again have to fight against those absolutes that nobody's going to understand, that it has to be this way. I hear so many people say, I'm never getting help, like I'm never going to therapy's not for me.
Yeah.
It's that rigid thinking instead of the mental flexibility to say,
Mm-hmm.
what if I try one more thing?
Yeah.
What if I just try one new person, one new type of therapy? There's so many
Yeah.
options, and it doesn't even have to start with people in your own family. Like it could be a therapist that might be the ticket. It's like maybe you're not
Yeah.
ready to tell anyone in your personal life about how hard it is to be in your brain, and that's okay. That's why we have
Yeah.
professionals like that.
Yeah. And it's interesting because the way that I told my therapist I was on and off in therapy for in my 20s and then decided to go back last December and had been in pretty hardcore every week. And I told her in the beginning, I said, it feels like there's a committee in my head. And that
Mhm.
committee has been silenced in the last 16 months
Mhm.
because it was all of the filtering of voices from everybody else who came before me, like all of my family, like, don't say
Mhm.
this, don't say that, can't admit this, can't admit that. But what I found is that telling certain people mostly like it was easier for me to talk to men about what was going on because they were more logical in their thinking and like, okay, have you tried, like my husband, he could be like, okay, have you tried breathing? Have you tried walking? Like that works for you. Have you tried drinking some water? Did you sleep last night? Okay, what was like, let's look at your week of how you've been sleeping. Okay, what can I do to take this off your plate? And it's been so refreshing. But when I have told women who are friends, often it's like a compile of like, oh, well, that's what I've got. And then I feel like I'm taking that on.
Mm.
Now you do this in a very large capacity. You have a very large following. How has that, like, how do you put that boundary? Because I've seen some of those comments where it's like, Sam, you need to handle my stuff too. How do you put that boundary down to say like, I cannot take this on with you because that's not for you to carry somebody else's stuff?
It's so hard because my heart is to help as many people as possible. That it
Mm-hmm.
just and I have burned out so many times because I give until again
Mm-hmm.
my body says I have nothing left to give.
Yeah.
And social media is just a war field at times. It just
Yes.
is. Um, it, I can tell you, like, the right answer is those things don't affect me, and for the most part, I think I do pretty well ignoring
Mm,
and using my tools to say, "Oh, wow," for someone to say that, like, right, like, I can do all of that mental work, and
mm.
it just is exhausting to
Yeah.
constantly be in conflict. Everything that I say, everything that I do, you get the, "Well, that's not me, and that's not," it you ju it's really hard. It's really draining.
Mm-hmm.
So I accepted. I tried to be that person who talked to individual people, especially when my following was smaller. And in some ways, my following getting bigger helped me be better about my boundaries. And
Mm.
just to say to myself, Sam, you can only do what you can do, and that's okay. I've even said
Yeah.
I'm 36 now, and recently I told my therapist, I was
Mm.
like, at 40, I'm gonna give myself an out on
Yeah.
suicide prevention if I want. Like I
Mm.
my brain needs to know that there might be an end to this season where I'm so vulnerable every single day, day after day. So I guess some of it is just listening to myself and what I need.
Mm.
I posted every day for years, and that's what helped
Yeah.
grow my following. And then in a different season, especially a season where I was feeling more healed and happier in myself, I didn't feel the need
Mm.
to post every day. And then I see the impact and the people who will say, I
Mm.
was going through cancer and I looked at your messages every day and it got me through. I like, and then I feel this responsibility again to give
Yeah.
more. Um, so at the end of the
Yeah.
day, I, I keep coming back to this phrase lately that it's all of our first time being human. It's
Mm.
like we're all just trying. And so
Yeah.
when your body is telling you this is too much, just listen to that. You got to find ways to pull back, whether that's not looking at the comments or,
Yeah.
um,
On
for me,
following 100 people
yeah,
over the
exactly.
weekend.
Actually, I've found empowerment in taking some of those comments and putting them in my story and responding in a kind, thoughtful way. That
Mm.
actually has helped me the most because
Yeah.
I feel like I need something in me. My voice being silenced negatively affects my mental health, and so I need to speak up. I don't have to
Yeah.
be a jerk, but sometimes I want people to see what I'm sacrificing to try to help them too. Like that,
Yeah.
because they don't always see that, and there's something in my chest that it's not, I don't think it's selfish, but there's something in me that's just like, hey, I want people to know that I'm out here fighting for you, and I care about you, and I love you,
Yeah.
and I have limits.
I love how Gary Vee put it. Because he's like a business entrepreneur and he has a massive following. Like he's one of the largest people like out there. And he just said like when someone is going around, like you see somebody commenting negatively to you, oftentimes they're miserable in their life.
Mhm.
And he's like, when they think about it, he goes, no, really, like, think about it. Think about how all day long this person goes around to find people and like something crumbs across their feed, if it's positive or negative or whatever, and they just go bully people. That means they are so miserable in their life. And it has nothing to do with who they commented on. And I was
Absolutely.
like, hold the phone.
Yep.
Like, you said what? And I
A
replayed it
thousand.
like 5 times because I was just like, I need to absorb this in. And it reminded me of like what my therapist had said. She's like, Denisha, like, I was in foster care. I raised my siblings, and I've given my life to like foster it, like give a voice to foster youth and put my story out there. And so when people have attacked that in person or online, it's just like, how dare you come at me? But she's like, but where do you start and where do they begin? Like, that's a them problem, not a you
Mm,
problem. And I was like, hold the phone. You
I
said
love
what?
that.
Yeah. And so I
Absolutely.
was like, I have had to learn in the last 16 months of like, why am I getting so offended by this when someone is rude to me, friend or stranger? And then me getting to say, you know what, that is a you thing. That is a you feeling that has nothing to actually do with me. But where I start is not where you're offended. I start over
Mm,
here, like there is something about what I shared that triggered
yes.
something in you. And as much as I want to help you with that, if you're not willing to have that good conversation of like admitting that that is something that hit you, it's not hitting me the same way. But I had got so obsessed with posting 3 times a day to try to like get my
Yep.
message out there that I had to say like this is not healthy, because I would
Mhm.
post and then I'd spend all day looking at the
Yep.
views. So I
Mm-hmm.
had to like
Me
start
too.
listening to like, I'm just going to put it out there, and whoever, if it's 1 like or 100 likes, whoever saw it is supposed to see it. And when people come in so rude, I'm like, instead of fighting back with them, if it's something that I'm like, you know what, it seems like they're actually curious about this question, they're not trying to be rude, let me go ahead and speak into it. But if it's
Yep.
them just being a total jerk, I've literally just said like, how kind of you, and walked away.
Mhm.
And several people go back and delete their comments. And
Yep.
I'm like, oh, so you were looking for a rise in me to
Yes.
fight me online to get that dopamine hit. Cool. See
Yes.
you later.
Exactly.
Um,
Yes.
not, there's no fight here, but then I do screenshot it because it's like, it fuels me a little bit, because it's just like, okay, because that person is saying it to somebody they care about. And that's why I'm
Yes.
like, I'm going to still be the person. I used to doom scroll at night, when I was in my 20s, looking for someone who I could relate to and like bawling. So I
Mhm.
post for that person, like,
Mhm.
you are not alone. You are not wrong. There's nothing wrong with you, but there is brokenness inside that needs to be healed. And I think on this side, I'm 35, so I'm just a year younger than you are. I'll be 36 in October. But I'm noticing, like, as I start to share, there's a lot of people who are like 50, 60 years old who have said, like, I'm just starting on my healing journey. I
Mhm.
wish someone had said this to me when I was in my 30s. And I'm just, again, this is where my therapist came in and said, don't feel like this is your undertaking. Like, this is just you sharing, but it's not your responsibility to pick up everybody else and drag them to this. But this is where I'm like, I'm going to share because I want people to see that healing can happen, and it's a lifelong journey because each layer is so layered. It's like layers upon layers. So how do you, when you're talking with someone and you share your story, I have a lot of foster youth who are advocates out there, and they feel like they have to take all of that on. What are some practices that they can start doing to say, okay, nope, this is a boundary now. Like, I don't need to be everything to everybody.
Absolutely. A few quick things come to mind. Immediately, it's like like what you were just alluding to is we don't have to attend every fight that we're invited to. You know what I mean? It's like there are
Yeah.
people who live for that conflict.
Mm,
But I absolutely agree with you that I think about the kid who's reading the comments on my posts and seeing, look at
yes.
someone who's being vulnerable about their mental health and look how they're being treated. So I do think I think a lot of it's trial and error, to be honest. I think you got to listen to your body. It kind of seems to be a theme of today, but I think
Yeah.
our brains tell us when it's too much. You know, you start
Yeah.
to, if it's a person in real life, you start to kind of resent them, or you start to feel this like, I don't want to spend time with that person. And that's all just information that we gather, right? It's like if I'm
I just
feeling
go
burned
to the
out,
physical, like, I'm gonna punch you. And I'm
right?
like, I'm gonna go.
But I think I really do believe our bodies are so special and so powerful, and they give
Mm,
us a lot more information maybe than we're listening. You know, we make ourselves so busy, we're rushing around that we don't pay attention.
yeah.
So I think that's one. I think two, it's advocating for yourself.
Mm.
advocating for yourself and what you need, that
Yes.
it's not selfish to say, "Hey, I have about 5 more minutes for the capacity for this conversation. Is
Mm.
there anything else you'd like to share or anything you'd like to get off? Or hey, can we pause this until another time? I'm just pretty maxed today." Um,
Yeah.
Finding those moments, and I'm not good at it. Literally last week, I could hear my brain
Yeah.
thinking those things, and then I was too afraid to say it because I didn't want to hurt the person who was sharing.
Mm.
Um, but Brene Brown has some really great things about boundaries, but she helped me say, she's in one of her books, she talks about the most compassionate people in the world are the most boundaried. And I thought, and that has really stuck with me so much. It feels
Yeah.
good. It feels, especially those of us that are built like you and me who just want to help as many people as possible.
Yeah.
It feels gross to, like what you just said, find that place where they stop and you begin. But
Mm.
it is essential to make any sort of impact in the world, to positively impact anyone. We also have to care for ourselves, and we cannot lose
Mm.
ourselves. And so much of my suicidal thoughts were not my brain saying, "Hey, I want to die." It was, "Hey, you're overwhelmed, you're maxed, you're giving to
Mm.
everybody else, you're not getting love in return. You're not the pain. It was just, pain is higher than my coping abilities. Whether you're suicidal or not, that's how
Yeah.
everybody gets at times. And so it's learning either how to pull that pain down with those daily habits of walking, getting good
Right.
sleep, eating
Mm.
well, and increasing those coping skills, whether that's finding a healthier outlet. For me, I love to play music. I love to write. It's how to
Yeah.
find those healthy ways to release that, and accepting that at the end of the day, we're still human and we have
Yeah.
limits what we can do. And that's okay because we're still
Yeah.
enough. Whether we help one person, we help 0 people, we help 10,000 people, we're still enough exactly as we
Yeah.
are. Um,
Mm.
and that is most important, is that we care for ourselves, and in that, through that own healing, that we can help other people heal too.
Can you say that statement by Brene Brown again?
Yeah,
What?
the most boundaried people are the most compassionate.
Gosh, because you think it's the other way around. You think
Exactly.
it's the like, and there's a difference between being someone who comes to serve and someone who comes to get. And when we don't have those boundaries, it's like, okay, if we broke our arm, we're going to minimize how much weight we put on that arm or that leg. Like, we're not going to
Mhm.
keep picking stuff up. We're going to ask for help. But with our brain, where it's a lot more, it's hidden, so it's harder to see when it's bruised or hurt. And so being able to stand back a second and say, like, hey, like, I am tired, like, I can feel it in my body. I was telling my husband this morning, I was like, I think I'm going to eat more protein right now because I'm still feeling sick to my stomach, and it's not a water intake thing. I think I might need some more protein. Ate more protein and my stomach has stopped hurting. And I'm like, that's really crazy that that's how my body's just like, my body's not gonna be like, protein girl, but it is like, my stomach is
Right.
sick, something is happening. And I'm like, okay, I know after traveling I'm gonna feel more fatigue and weak and like tired, so I'm gonna try to take a nap today and like, or rest somehow, because that's something that I didn't do before. And I told him, I said, my whole 20s was all about pushing through. And I know,
Mhm.
like, my saying is the bootstrap girl, but it is in the sense of like, I'm going to figure it out. I might not have everything handed to me. I might not have all that information, but I'm going to ask the questions and find the information, and I'm going to keep trying. Not
Mhm.
the don't admit it, which is what some people have turned that into, is like, don't admit it. Don't say that you hurt. Don't say that. Just get over yourself. And that's what I told myself my entire 20s. Get over yourself. Nobody cares, but people do care. So when you have found there's something else that I was thinking of, is there was this video, you were talking about relationships and like talking about finding people who were safe. And one of the things that this guy said is like, his friend had reached out. She was having a really hard day and reached out and was like, hey, how are you? And he was like, oh, I'm not doing so good. I'll talk to you later. And she's like, I was having a really hard day and you didn't notice. And so he's like, we got to have a code word here. Cause like that, hi, how are you, did not come across of, hey, I'm having a bad
Yes.
day. And so
Yes.
they picked up, they said together, they agreed that what they would say is, do you have the emotional capacity right now? And I was
Mhm.
like, so I used that with a friend and I was just
Mhm.
like, do you have the emotional capacity to take something on? And
Yeah.
she's like, yes. But then she did it for me. And I was like, actually, I do. But then there was another day that neither of us did. And
Yes.
it was totally okay, because it was just like,
Yes.
okay. And she even said, I was like, do you have the emotional capacity? And she's like, I don't. Can we talk in a few hours? Well, I think I might have
Yes.
that emotional capacity. And she ended up falling asleep because it was a hard day. And then the next day I was just like, hey, are you okay today?
Yes.
Not because I need you, but I noticed this happened. And it was just noticing each other. And when I heard that from him, I was like, you know what? I have been the one to be like, hey, how are you? How's it going? Here's my crap. And then people were like, whoa, and they might be in a bad space. So when we ask that question of just like, hey, are you in an emotional capacity to handle something with me? That allows someone to say yes or no. And we have to accept that. But I think it helps someone understand the weight of like where we're at, is like, oh, something's happening. And so like traveling this weekend, like I normally don't have any anxiety traveling coming back home, but I had a bad amount. And I texted a few people, and then I texted another friend and I was like, can you call me and pray with me? Because this is what's going on. I'm in Portland. And she's like, she missed the text. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And then an hour, I'm just still sitting at the airport. So she's like, an hour later, she's like, are you still there? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, okay, are you still okay? I was like, I'm not okay. And she's like, and she just called me, and she just talked with me and prayed with me and just was there with me. And, she was sharing things with me, and I felt so much lighter. And this is not someone I call often. I think the last time I called her was 10 years ago. Because we just text and we see each other, and like sometimes.
Yep.
And so it was that moment of just like, I was able to say, even though mentally I was saying they don't need you to harass them right now. And I was just like, I need to text her, because she would be very upset if I were to ever tell her, like, I thought about texting you, but I didn't want to bug you. I already know her response is, you can call me at any point.
Yes.
And she knows me asking, like, I don't call a lot of people. So when I'm like, can someone call me? People
Yep.
know, like, hey, this is pretty severe. But
But
it
that you're
was
communicating, as you
beautiful.
were saying before, it's like you're communicating what you need, and you're not making people guess, and you're
Or
giving
say
them
no
the
for
option.
me.
Yep.
Like,
Right.
that's the big part. And I think, like you said that earlier, you're like, we can't let people say no. You can't let people, when you ask someone, you can't make them say no for you by not asking. So when you have that battle of like, no, don't reach out, how can you push through that in that way? Because that took a lot. It took like an hour for me to be like,
Mm.
let me ask for someone to meet me through a phone call. How do you handle that in that moment?
Two big things that I just have had to learn from 20 years of struggling with this is what you're talking about, what you're describing is building a village, and it takes a
Mm.
long time. But for a long time, I thought my six closest friends needed to be there for me 24/7 when I needed
Mm.
them, or they didn't care about me. That's how my brain was operating. It was either you're with me or you're not. And that's A, it's not realistic.
Yeah.
B, it's not giving them the kindness that life changes. Most of my high school friends had babies, they got married, like their capacity
Mm.
was much less. And that doesn't mean they don't care for me. That doesn't mean they wouldn't answer my phone call at 10 p.m. if I was really struggling. So I think first and foremost, it's accepting the love that other people have to give, and meeting them with what they're able to give, and
Yeah.
not expecting them to be your everything, right? It's developing a community of people who understand. With that, you also have to communicate to them how to help you, as we talked about before. Like when
Yeah.
I was in a really low place, I have a shared note in my phone with about six people of very specific things they can do when they know I'm really struggling. Because I had this place where people would be like, I see that you're struggling, but I don't know how to help, so I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
So
Ooh,
it's like
okay.
really like a specific, it's like Chipotle order, and like it's like pick me up for a walk. Like
Mm.
there's like very specific things
That's gonna make
that
me
they can
cry.
do,
Like, dang.
and it is so beautiful because they,
Yeah.
as I said before, I really think most people would help if they knew how. The other thing that
Yeah.
really helps me in my village a lot is I try to use instead of how are you, I say where are you at 1 to 10. Um,
Mm.
And it just gives you, I think this, especially all of my work with teenagers, this really helps with teenagers and helping people to start open up. And then
Yeah.
you as a caregiver or just someone who, and this works in all relationships, not just people who struggle with mental health, but you get more information about what's helping people feel better and what's helping people feel worse, right? If you're a three,
Mm,
you know, what is contributing to that today? And if someone's like, oh, I'm an eight, I went for a walk, I got my protein in, I'm like feeling on top of the world. And it's
yeah.
really simple ways to be like, hey, the other day when you were an eight, you did this. Have you tried that? And it
Yeah.
creates, it opens up some of that communication a little bit better. And it takes some of the burden off of you having to tell people you're struggling because you can just say, I'm a two today. I'm just getting through it.
Mm,
Right. And
mm,
instead of like, I am finding the words sometimes can be so hard. I'm bad. I'm
yeah.
not right. It's like we're conditioned to
Yes.
say, I'm good. I'm fine. I'm okay.
Right.
Even just articulating without scaring people or like
Right.
right? Like it's like it can be so complicated. Just tell people you're having a tough day,
Oh
um,
gosh, yes.
and so
That
find
scale is
find
such a
good
huge
language.
deal.
Yeah, it helps. It has helped me immensely, and helps other people learn how to open up too.
You have written how many books now? I feel like you have like a
I am.
thousand. you're
There's
on
let's
you're on
just
that track.
I am. I just finished writing my third book, but my second book comes out here next month.
Oh my
So,
gosh. So with this is something that I think in our realm of people who give and advocate in these spaces, how have you felt not pressured? I don't even know how to say that right. How do you prevent yourself from being pressured to share everything with everybody emotionally, like your details of your story?
mhm. Trial and error has been the biggest thing. Is I don't like talking about my dating life. I
Mm,
Let's take a step back. I don't consider myself an influencer. That has really helped me. I am not online
that part.
to show off my life. I am not
Mm,
online to try to tell you that my life's better than me, better than you, that you need to buy this. 0%. I'm not influencing
yeah.
that way. I am showing up as my real authentic self, and I'm showing up
Mm,
for other people, which I love. Some things, as much of my trauma and struggles online are out there, anyone can see. I've had people come up to me at the supermarket and be like, "Oh, hey, you're the suicide guy," and it's like not a great thing to have
y-
out there. Like I'm recognized
yeah.
as the worst day of my life, for the worst day.
Mm,
And also, so if there are things that I don't want people to know, I have absolutely every single right to not tell them, to not let them in, to write about what I want to write about, to delete things that I don't want to write about. We live in this world where people think that they should have 24/7 access to you and to everything that you do. And
yeah.
I get to decide that actually. I get to set those limits. And over time, talking about those things has gotten a lot easier. I had a therapist in the early beginning. He's like, someday you're gonna be able to tell this story. It's not gonna be so draining to you. Because I used to, in my early
Mm,
events, I would like need a full day to just lay in bed and recover. A lot of it was
yeah.
vulnerability, hangover, truthfully, like exposing yourself that much.
Yeah.
Plus, when you're speaking and writing and sharing about trauma, studies have shown your body actually, in some capacities, is reliving
Relives
that
it.
trauma. It's like
Mm-hmm.
still in your body. And so we have to give ourselves grace to enter into those dark places and to just be like, no, I don't talk about that. Next question.
Mm,
And
I love
that's
that.
okay. That's a boundary that allows you to be more compassionate. And I can keep sharing the story of my attempt because I have this boundary that I don't share about my relationships online. And that's how I
Yeah.
want to live. I don't want anyone else to have to be a part of online that I have chosen to
Yeah.
be in.
Yeah, I think it's crazy too because I don't look at you as the suicide guy. I look at you as Sam, the mental health guy, who's showing people how to find strength. And that's what's so wild is that one person might be like, "Oh, you're that guy." Like everyone's always like, "I'm not as big as you," but I
Mhm.
have had people be like, "Oh, you're the girl who was in foster care," and
Mhm.
my story's foster to PhD, but that's where it's like, look, I'm the bootstrap girl because I've learned how to figure things out by myself that should have been things that I was taught, but I also am just Denisha. And so part of my stuff is I just show like I just show what I want to show. So if I show my daughter, I show my daughter. If I show my
Mhm.
husband and me, I show us. But I'm not like, you have to be in every moment of every day. Like, I won't do probably a get ready with me anytime soon, because it feels so weird. Like, I'm like, look, I look
Yes.
a mess before I get ready, and I'm like grumpy. Like, I'm still waking up. Like, those are things that I'm just like, it's too much. And I remember her, I think her name was, oh my gosh, I can't remember her name. She had really curly hair and she was an influencer and she did really funny things. She's like this little tiny thing, but I want to say her name was Liz. But she would usually be in the grocery store doing like something really funny about like what she was about to buy. And she disappeared after getting super huge on YouTube. And she recently did an interview and somebody was like, "Where did you go?" And she's like, "I couldn't even brush my teeth in the morning without thinking of content. I had to quit." And
Mhm.
I was like, I don't want to get to that point, because
No.
I was like, it's so easy to be perform that you were never resting. And so it's like, okay, then I'm not worrying about the follow count. I'm not worrying about the view count. I'm going to just worry about that I'm putting a message out there that we deserve to heal, that we don't have to be our past. So when you are putting those boundaries down, it feels like it is that moment that you're taking back a little bit of saying, like, you don't own me. Like, I don't care about social media that in that way anymore, because it's like, it is for good, but I'm not going to let it be evil to me, because that's
Agreed.
what it can go down, is like all of a sudden I'm like performing every single day, that it's like, if I don't post today, then nobody's gonna like my stuff and they're gonna think that I literally, let me be real, I got to the point where I was like, if I don't post today, people are not gonna notice that I'm alive. And I'm like, that's such a bad place to be. So I was like, if I don't post today, I don't post today. There's nothing about it that matters. The social media doesn't matter. And like some of the people I follow, they'll say like, go touch grass outside and go get in the sun. And I'm like, go touch grass. So like when I start to feel that, I'm like, oh, it is time to go touch some grass. Like, I don't have to post everything every moment. I don't need everything to be
True.
my diary. So I love that you say that, because I think so many of us get caught up in like, if we don't have a following, we won't have success. And it's like, look, you have no idea what your life's going to be like. But I love that you don't just like, there's restrictions for you, and that works for you for what you want to share. Can we go back to the mental health for men? What would be
Absolutely.
something that you would want young men and older men to hear about mental health? Because I've seen it mocked a lot when people are like, they're like, oh, there was like this thing, this video where, you know, these ladies, it was a dating show, and these ladies are like, we want a man who can express emotions and da 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 da. And then one of the guys, like, someone asked a question and it hit something, and he's like, I'm so sorry, like, I actually just recently lost someone that I really cared for. And that, like, that was directly related. Like, when was the last time you cried, is what they asked. And he's like, actually recently lost my best friend. And he was like, I just need a minute. And then all of them were just like, yeah, that was really unattractive. And it was just like, I'm gonna smack every single one of you ladies. Like, I was so upset. But like, this is what men see every day, is stuff like this. So like, what would be the message you want young men and older men to hear about mental health, but also to being able to find people to express things to?
I truly believe it all starts with authenticity, and stop instead of looking and pointing out what's wrong with the world and saying, see, this is why men don't open up. There's that
Mm,
very strong anger response to things like
yeah.
that. And you can spend your whole life being angry about the way the world is, or you
Yes.
can just be the change that you want to see. You know, it's
Mm,
like, as I have explored new relationships and those sorts of things, I just show up as I am and I model
mm,
what the type of relationship, friendship, romantic, otherwise, that
yeah.
I just model. I just, this is, hey, this is what I am going to say. This is how I want us to check in. And I just, through my own journey, have found enough confidence in myself to say, I don't need you to like me. That's like, it sounds really scary. And a lot of
No,
men
yeah.
don't want to admit that. But I just see that as like, oh, you're not the right person for my village, and that's okay. Right. Instead of,
Yeah.
we don't have to be angry at the world that we can say most or many, right? Like, they can't handle this. They couldn't handle that guy crying. It's like, hey, just be yourself. Start
Yeah.
with, it's okay if I cry. Oh, and I'm really sorry you had that reaction. It must be hard to live in a world where you don't think people can express when they've lost their best friend, right? Like I think about the
Yeah.
same thing in weddings. I DJ'd weddings for a lot of my 20s to pay for grad school, and almost every single time someone would
Yeah.
apologize for crying. I'm so sorry. I told myself I wasn't going to cry, and
Mm.
I'm like, this is one of the most important days of your entire life. Maybe the
Yeah.
person who means more to you than anyone else. If you weren't showing emotion, I would feel bad for you. And now you're apologizing for having just
Mm.
basic human emotions about deeply loving someone. So like
Mm.
the layers of these things go deep, and instead of focusing on the system and being angry, I think we as men, especially, just be yourself. And
Yeah.
if you have guy friends who don't allow that, maybe they're not going to be your best friends, and that's okay. You don't have to cut them out, but maybe they're not the people you go to, and you've got to start seeking out, because
Yeah.
there are people out there like me, like you, who have friends who are supporting their friends who want to know about their mental health. It's not
Mm.
impossible to find those people, especially online.
Right.
So instead of being mad, I said just start with that authenticity piece, and start with just finding one person who you can kind of be yourself with, that you're not performing.
Mm. I love that.
It's scary. It's really scary.
Yeah.
Maybe that person is a professional, as we said before. It's I've therapy has changed my life. It's not for everyone. It's a journey, but it absolutely has changed my life. And so
Yeah.
I think it's the last piece of that is just not rejecting the help that's out there. There is a lot of help. There are good
There's
people.
yes.
Um, Stay curious and stay open to what that might look like.
And have a dance party if that's what you need,
Yeah.
because it's really true. Like, it's so funny because I told my husband, I was like, I went on my Instagram and unfollowed 120 people that I was following that I really wanted to follow, but because of their content right now, it's very intense for me.
Mhm.
And they're
Yes.
sharing truth, but it's really hard. And
Yep.
I'm like, it made like I felt like the world was just so dark. Like I was like, everywhere I look, someone's getting hit, someone's
Yes.
hurting, someone's doing this,
Yes.
someone's angry. And I feel that pain. But then it's like, okay, you know what? It's not actually all that much, because when you look on social media, your algorithm pushes that stuff to you. And it was really
Mhm.
weird because it was like I had breastfeeding cakes and angry. And I was like, I don't know what is wrong with my algorithm right now. So I was like, I'm going to unfollow a bunch of people that I really care for that I'll follow again in the future. But for this
Yep.
season right now, I had to step back, and then that touch the grass, dance it out. Like I put my favorite song on, and even though my body wasn't feeling it, I just had it on repeat, and then I put other songs to calm my body down, and it was like it started helping. And I was like, oh, I have been in the forefront of like the world is just a dark place, and that's not true. It's not true. There is light out there. And so let me follow those people who it's like they're going to speak truth into that, but also let me get off my phone, get off
Yes.
an algorithm, and go look outside to see that that's not actually happening every day. And I love that you said like sometimes it's a therapist that you need to like maybe you don't have someone you can be that real with, or you really maybe you're in a position like you're a leader where you are, and like you can't really say anything because of where you
Mhm.
work. So go to someone and share that confidentially so that you can get it out of your body. And that's why I think working out and exercise is like I was telling my husband, like I was like, I feel like my body doesn't know what to do. And that's when he asked like, when was the last time you
Mhm.
walked? And I'm like, it's been 4 days. And so my body has all of this energy, and it's like, I don't know what else to do but freak out because we don't know. We haven't done this. We haven't done this in a while. So that walking and that moving and getting out in the sun, my body's like absorbing that and like,
So true.
okay, this is something that my body is like, I need to get this out, because verbally you've gotten it out, but physically the negative energy that runs in our body, like I know I probably sound crazy to somebody. They're like, the negative energy. It's like, no, it's true. Like our body has stress tension in the muscle, and if we can't get that out, it doesn't know what else to do except for maybe a fight or flight situation. So that walking, even though that first 5 minutes was like, my body felt like it was just like hitting. Like if I was a cartoon, I'd be like like just fighting, and then it just released, and I was like, oh, and then I started crying, and it was like, oh my god, okay, that was pent up for 4 days. So it's like talk with someone, and then move your body, get your body moving, because that's often where we resort to sitting still and working, which is what we do well. We to-do lists, we are good at to-do lists, but we're not good at getting our body to get that extra energy out. And that's where, like, I see you always are like, get out, go. I've seen the videos where you're like, walk around, hike, go on a run, like, go do these things. And I'm just like, dude, if it wasn't for you, Sam, like, sometimes I'd be like, dang, like, I forgot to do that. Like, though, it's just so beautiful that you have healed so much to where it's like, you are not the suicide guy. You are the guy who's like, our mental health is so important, and like, go touch grass. Like, that is probably like a saying that so many people are like, I don't like that you say that. And I'm like, look, but it makes sense. Like, we physically, like, our body heals with the sun. Our body gets vitamin D that we need. Our body needs to exercise. Like, our body was not meant to, we actually see this. Our body was not meant to be stagnant. Our body was not built to sit down all day long. Our body was actually designed for movement, which is why a lot of us can move. So let's move our bodies, let's move our minds, let's move into that healing space, and find people. It is hard to find people that we can share things to, but I love that you said, like, well, then you're just not in my village. Like, I'll still be a good acquaintance, we'll still be good to talk to, but in that special place where it's like, this is someone I reach out to when I'm in this low, that's just not the person I'm going to reach out to. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we end?
Absolutely. I mean, we could just talk for another 6 hours, you and me.
We really could.
I
I
really
love
appreciate
it.
you and
Yeah,
all that you
share
have to
whatever.
share. Truly, a big shift in my healing journey happened when I started viewing mental health kind of in three big realms. And it's kind of what you're touching on.
Ooh,
That's why I
yeah.
kind of really like this is there absolutely is a physical part of mental health. The things you're talking
Yes.
about, eating, sleep,
Yes.
hydration, exercise, right? Like mental health is also very tied to your physical health. There is a
Mm.
mental side, things like trauma, things like thought patterns, the way that we talk to ourselves, boundaries is a big
Yes.
part of that. Um,
Mm.
the way that we let people treat us, even just like the news and
Yeah.
the things we're taking into our brain, there's a
Yes.
mental side. And there's kind of this spiritual side. And I don't share that in like a woo woo way, but this like thing that connects us to something bigger than ourselves. Like whatever that looks like for you, whether that's
Yes.
adventure, maybe that's travel, it's hobbies, it's art. It's like, what are the few things that make you truly enjoy life? One of those for me is
Yeah.
just being around a bonfire with people I care about. It's like one of my favorite things on
Mm.
the planet. It feels peaceful, the world, like the stars, the fire. There's
Mm-hmm.
something about that that I love, and I feel like the world is a good place. So
Yeah.
it's kind of the trick is there's this delicate balance of all three and checking in
Yeah.
with each one, right? It's like when you're struggling, it's like maybe it is physical. Like for you, you were just I a physical need wasn't addressed, and so like that's
Yeah.
an easy place to start. And might be some more deeper rooted things that to work
Mm-hmm.
on, but then
Yep.
it's that last piece
Always.
to it. Like what are the things that make you want to be alive? Is that a bucket list? Is that, I mean, it's for me, it's like 18 months after my suicide attempt, I spent 6 weeks in Zimbabwe playing in a band, traveling all over Zimbabwe.
Mm.
Um, I love to travel. I love to go and serve people. I love
Yeah.
jumped out of an airplane. Like I ran a marathon. I did all these crazy things.
Yeah.
And that was just as helpful. Volunteering, giving back, starting this, all of that is
Yep.
just as helpful as a therapy. Like, no, none of those things are more important than others. Some of those might be more in crisis where you want to address those sooner,
Yes.
but absolutely, like, all are a part of it. And it's okay to try a
Yeah.
walk. And if that doesn't work, to paint a picture or, like, it's just this
Yeah.
delicate balance of listening to ourselves, of learning, that staying curious piece, and
Yes.
just giving ourselves permission to be human, to keep trying. It's everybody has a bad day.
Yeah.
It's just a bad day. It's not a bad life.
Yeah. And it's like you said, it's mind, body, and soul. And I think we often forget the soul piece because we're so focused on the mind. Like, let me just stop the rushing. Let me, and that's where it's like, I recognized I had to get out of my head because I'm an internal processor. I'm very much, I think like more like my brothers than I do my sisters because like I grew up around more brothers than I did with my older sisters. And so they're more feminine, they're more emotional, they can speak more. But I was told like very young, like, don't tell me your emotions, just just shush.
Yep.
So that deeper part is always come in first of like, don't let anyone know that you feel this way because it'll make you look weak. And someone was like, that's a very interesting thing. So I'm like very, very logical thinking like this, and this. So I try to go through all my to-do lists. And sometimes it's just that I have to speak it out to someone and say like, I'm feeling emotionally disconnected from somebody. Maybe part of my journey is faith, where it's like, do I feel like I'm disconnected from reading my Bible and doing my worship music and listening to like pouring that over me, so my soul is connected back to my God. Like that's something that's super important to me. But it's like, if I feel those things disconnected, it's not just often one, it can be multiple. And I think that's what's so wild to me, is that like we only ever get taught one.
Yes.
It's like, oh, just go work out. And it's like, but what if it's
Yes.
your spirit feeling disconnected from people? What if it is like, we need to go outside and play in dirt? Like that feels weird for some people, but I'm like, let's just try it. Let's go on a hike, get your feet dirty. But that's such a thing where it's like, we're holistically a person. We're not just one of these things. We're mind, body, and soul. And so we have to look at, and like, it was so wild because yesterday literally was like, okay, body's good,
Yep.
but not good.
Yep.
Mind is not good. Yep. Soul is not good. Okay, all three in the same 15-20 minutes. And so that was just taking it one step at a time. And I think that is not really taught to us. It's usually just like, oh, go eat well. Why are we doing that? And so this is so good for us to keep that in mind. So anything else you'd like to share? I love this. This was really good.
One last practical tip around this is like, if you're listening to this and you're just struggling to get out of bed, like the practical thing is just pick one thing every day. Just try one thing. Maybe even set a 10-minute timer. That's one thing I will do is I'm going to clean for 10 minutes. I'm going to walk for 10 minutes. At the end of those 10 minutes, I can decide if I want to stop, if I want to go back in bed. But so much of those really hard days are pushing past that brain that says, I can't do this. Right. Yeah. So you got to trick your brain sometimes. You can't listen to everything you think. Our brains can lie to us. Sometimes you got to put a little bit of that into action first. Sometimes they call that opposite to emotion, but you got to push through that. I can't just get to the gym 10 minutes. And if you want to leave. But once you're there, you're probably going to want to stay. And same thing. It's like, when you're in those dark places, pick one thing. And if that doesn't help today, try something else tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow it's going to be cooking a meal. It's going to be going to play some volleyball, whatever that is for you. But stay curious, stay open to what might help you. Stay open to that there are good people, even if you've been hurt. Fight back against those parts of our brain that say it will never get better. Just push back gently, be kind to yourself. And then just once you start healing, you're going to just see, oh, this is possible. Oh, I can do this. And then there's just this really beautiful moment where you like, I think I want to try to help some other people too. And that's when it gets fun. That's when it gets really fun.
I think that's where a lot more healing happens too, where it's like you start to realize like, oh, I'm not the only one who has experienced this or feels this way. I'm not alone. But there was this concept that I learned a couple of years ago by a therapist who he says he tells his clients to when they're having a really hard day of just doing anything is just to start the dishwasher or the laundry again. And what it does again, tricks your brain where it's like, well, I haven't done anything today. And it's like, I started the laundry, but I never put it in the dryer. And he's like, start it again. Like, okay, your bill's going to be a little bit high, but like just start it again. Cause then you can trick your brain saying I did 2 loads of laundry today. And you just do that. I don't know why the balloons are going.
Woo, laundry.
Look, laundry. But it was really helpful because like there's moments where it's like if all you did to get out of bed today and you walked downstairs and got water and went back to bed, like you did something, but you have to get up and actually do something. This is why I think so many people advocate, like if you get out of bed, change your clothes, get out of your pajamas, get out of the stuff you wore the day before, wash your face. There was like a big saying where it was like, girl, wash your face for like 4 years, where it was just like, wash your face, because it's like what it does is it gets the gunk off. And I literally did that this morning where I was like, I'm washing yesterday off my face because yesterday was heavy. Today's going to be a better day. And then when I got changed and I got food in my belly, like it just changed how I felt. And I was just like, okay, like, but grace is so needed. Like we need to not beat ourselves up. We need to extend that grace. But thank you so much for joining me, Sam. Like every time I talk to you, I'm always like, oh, I got this. But that's what we're here for. If you guys have comments, I want you guys to leave the comments there, ask questions. What has worked for you? What are you doing that you find that's better for you? Because we're all built different. Not every one of us is gonna feel that. I mean, when I run, I feel like really horrible, so I have to walk. But Sam's a runner, and that helps me know like physical activity is so good. But like whatever works for you, put down in the comments. Follow along. Follow Sam. Read his books; they're so helpful. And if you guys want to follow along with anything else, you guys can like and subscribe the YouTube channels to the YouTube channel because that'll help you get notifications for the channel as well. You guys have a wonderful day. Sam, thank you so much for joining for our table talk conversation on mental health. Have a wonderful day, you guys.
Sam Eaton at Recklessly Alive on Instagram, TikTok. My book Recklessly Alive is available on Amazon.